today I just want to quickly show you around our architectural collection storage area that we have. It includes almost 19,000 architectural fragments and over 40 architectural models, some of them which are just representations of buildings in the historic area, and others are just concept models of the expanded museum that we're currently doing, as you can see over here. This was in the museum to show people coming through what the expansion was going to look like. And once we move past things like that at the foundation, the models are saved and they come out here for storage. To begin, I want to start with our historic area collection. We have fragments from many of our original buildings in the historic area. Not a lot, because really our job is not to take things off or out of the buildings, it's to keep them together. We are in the preservation business. But from the start of the restoration until now, sometimes the buildings necessitate us removing parts to save that either show style, design elements, or have paint on them that can teach us what some of the 18th century colors were here. And when you come through, you can see that we've arranged the fragments by the buildings, not by types. So everything from the George Wythe House is stored here and below. And we have the Timpson House and above. And the reason why I set it up that way is so that if somebody wants to come in and study a specific building and the fragments that we have, they can just walk right up and look at everything together. It didn't serve my purposes to separate all floorboards or all weatherboards or all nails or all bricks or all trim by types. It's better to keep them together as buildings. So on the other side, buildings such as Peyton Randolph House, which is one of our larger collections, are mostly interior trim pieces that had to be removed when modern heating and air systems were put in. Also, another really neat thing that we have from Peyton Randolph House is this, one of our earliest pieces. It's a section of the 1715 to 1718 wood gutter, and you can even see some of the surviving tar that was put on it to act as waterproofing. And what's neat about it is the original house had an M roof or a treble roof, and these oak gutters would draw the water off of the roof line and down. The problem was we have so much moisture here in Virginia that it became too heavy, and when Peyton Randolph took over the home, he raised the roof, but he saved the surviving treble roof and its gutters within. One of my favorite collections is from Weatherfords Tavern, and most of these fragments were removed from the tavern when it was restored in 1966 to 1967. And what you see here are just a magnitude of different pieces. You have something as simple as a window jamb right here, and what's cool about this is not only does it have original paint layers on it, but it also shows reuse. So at one point you had a window pulley here, it was removed at some point, and then here's the one that was put in after it. And window pulleys, we actually have quite a few in the collection, as you can see here from Weatherfords, again, all showing different paint layers. But it also shows construction techniques and tells us the types of wood that they used. Another really cool thing is this leaded sash weight. We have two of them in the collection with its original hemp cord, and it's natural hemp, but then it's also got 4 strands, 2 of which are dyed with vermilion and the other 2 are just natural. And this survives from 1752 and was removed from the house at that time because it had, as you can see, the cord had frayed and the weight had fallen down into the pocket and was no longer working. Other things that are very interesting from Weatherfords Tavern is we get a really nice paint record on the various pieces. So we have lots of scratch and match paint reveals from when Susan Higginson Nash was doing work here in the historic area trying to determine the early colors, and then up into the 60s when our paint analysts were looking. We have several pieces, one like that, and even larger reveals, just trimmed throughout the building that shows us the various colors that were in there. And again, with today's modern techniques, we've been able to determine what the actual colors look like through the 18th, 19th, and then early 20th. And this one I really love with this sort of pinkish salmon color on the outside, but you can see at some point they had nice blue, some toothpaste green as I call it. So through paint analysis, we're determining what those actual colors would have looked like. And so these are invaluable tools to us as to the color history within that particular tavern. Another fun aspect of the collection are the doors. On this side we have 18th and early 19th century doors from historic area buildings that we had to bring into the collection because either to protect them or it was a change in the interior space of the building and it would have not have been safe to leave them in there. So a couple of really neat ones. From the Koger shop, which was a building that was actually brought into the historic area in the 1940s from King and Queen County. And this shows a really higher status. These people had some money. When you see the faux graining that they did on the door, and very carefully you can see where they kind of did a gold design that was painted on also. So it showed a lot of status to this. But what's very funny is it's a closet door. You know, you wonder why they would have done that on it. So you think, okay, it's just facing the room that you were in, so you want to show status. But if you turn it around and look at it, it had it on both sides. So it's a little confusing to me what both sides were used for. We know that this side was less important because it's got the flat panels and you have the raised panels on this side. But still trying to figure that all out. Then you get a door like from the reconstructed Charlton's Coffee House. This was one of the closet doors inside, and what's really neat about this is not only did it tell us what one of the doors inside the coffee house looked like when we reconstructed the building, but we also got some paint analysis from it, but it also showed the tremendous amount of use and reuse. And with most of my collection, anything like doors, windows, things like that, trim, we find that they were reused all the time, and that was common in the 18th century and even into the 19th century. You couldn't just go to Home Depot or Lowe's or someplace and just buy a new one. You had to take what you had and reuse it. So these are very cool to look at the type of locks or that might have been on there, or sometimes knobs, or even the type of hinges that they used still survive on here and tell us what styles. And talking about styles, you have your regular interior doors, and then you come to your utility doors. I love this one. This one is from the Thomas Everard House. It's kitchen outbuilding. And this one's just tremendous, very solid door. It has its original hinges on it, but it's really cool because like with the door you see here from the Koger, the pull latch, this one has the same idea. You would just pull on a cord and that's how you would open your door. But it's just tremendous. And again, it shows whitewash, which was common on most of the buildings. The board and batten was a common style here. And so it's just amazing that this door survives from around, we think that this door dates to somewhere around the 1750s. So just a tremendous door to have. We have other ones from Weatherfords Tavern. We have one from the Koger complex also. So it's just a nice mix of doors either from homes or from outbuildings. Not only were things removed to protect them from modern installations in the buildings, but we also have things in the collection that came in due to the fact that they were damaged in fire. We have several pieces from Bassett Hall, which caught fire in 1930, shortly after the Williamsburg Holding Corporation took it. And this is from the front stair hall. This was part of the paneling that was in there that was brought out. And luckily, there was a man who worked for the Williamsburg Holding Corporation who lived nearby, and when he saw that the building was on fire, he ran in and he grabbed several pieces. And it's not uncommon. At one point, another building in the historic area, the Travis House, which is now up across from the public hospital on the corner of Francis and Henry Streets, also it caught fire in 1928, and they were able to run in, mostly it was just the roof, but they were able to grab some trim pieces too and save them, so we didn't lose everything in the upper floor spaces. And so these also saved us some of the paint samples from the building, but we can also see the trim design that was in the building. So once we have these fragments that have the paint samples still on them, what we do is our paint analysts will come and they will take samples, and they're either in resin cubes or they're on slides, and in a few cases they're just loose samples. And what we've done is we've put them together in bins, either by their building site or a location in Virginia or whatever. And this way, when anybody wants to know what the paint history is in a building, if we have those samples, they can come, they can take them into the lab and figure out exactly what the pigments were, what the actual color might have been. And so this is just very handy. And it's estimated that we have about 5,000 samples so far. Many of the paint samples were used when we designed our new paint color line with Benjamin Moore. And here you see a few of the colors that we were able to figure out looking at some of our original pieces, like this one from the Travis house. Once the paint analysis was done, we were able to remake some of the colors and then recreate them in the Benjamin Moore line. And so a lot of what you see here and what you see on there are now represented in our color line. Among our almost 19,000 fragments that we have, it's not all wood, it's not all paint. We have some amazing stone fragments also. Like this one here, it's one of the pavers from the Governor's Palace that was down in the cellar. And what's cool about this and the way that we show it is you can see the mason's mark on here as I'm kind of tracing it with my finger. And this is how the masons were paid. They had no other way to say, I made this stone. They had no way. So what they would do is they would put their specific mark on there, and at the end, that was how they got paid. We also have from the Capitol, originally there was a statue of Lord Botetourt in 1773 that was in the piazza that stood. And we have some of the original stones from the base here, along with some of the replacement stones that were made in 1933. So as you can see here, we have quite a few of them, and someday it would be fun if we could ever have the space to put them all together back in a circle and maybe do something like a hologram or something of Botetourt standing on there, which would be really neat. And leaving the historic area collection for a little bit, I'd like to just tell you very briefly a little bit about our North American collection, which is fragments from buildings in the Chesapeake region and up into New England. And what they do is they show pieces that would have affected architectural design here. A lot of them are earlier. And one in particular, I will get for you. Is this board from Bell Farm, which was circa 1770 to 1780. It was originally in Gloucester County. And the interesting thing about this is it has a drawing on it, and it was used by the builder of Bell Farm to sketch the arch in the front hall, and that's how he based his design, and then he reconstructed it in the house. And what this shows for us is how a design from 1770 was reproduced here in the historic area in the Benjamin Powell house in the first quarter of the 19th century, when they made an adjustment to the original building and they put in this arch, and we have the pilasters that go with it too in one of the rooms. And it's just a neat thing where our North American collection shows us earlier examples of what was then reproduced here in the historic area. And this particular arch and its pilasters you will be able to see eventually in the expanded art museums here at Colonial Williamsburg. For our next installment, now that I've kind of talked about our historic area and our North American collections, next time I want to talk about our European collection. And I'm just going to give you a little highlight of what we have behind door number 1. We have what is called the Lenigan collection, named for the man who collected all this and his widow who gave it to us. And just to give you a quick peek, ta-da! We have faces. We have columns. We have birds, all done by master craftsmen in England in the 17th and 18th centuries. So something to look forward to next time.